Chicken or rice? Or rice, chicken or rice?
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate, oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And welcome to the Superhero Slate review of Dark Phoenix.
Yes, don't get that confused with X-Men Dark Phoenix, because I didn't see the word X-Men anywhere spelled out in the credits of this film. I don't know about you.
No, they don't. They didn't say X-Women anywhere either, but that's neither here nor there.
That is true.
Just a heads up, as always, we will do spoiler-free first, and then we will dive into spoilers afterwards. But judging by the early box office numbers, no one's going to listen to this or watch this movie. So
yes, unfortunately, the headlines were telegraphed months, weeks ahead of this movie. I've been seeing lots of down in flames, bursts into flames at the box office. So that's all just speaking towards the amount of money this movie made, not really towards the reviews, but we'll get into that here once we start talking about the film. But not all that surprising. Not a lot of people were looking forward to the movie, so I'm not surprised a lot of people didn't rush to go see it. So it's tough out there. I mean, my movie theater, it's a smaller theater, just 8 screens. So Endgame is already out of it by now, but I'm sure some theaters that have a higher count, you could probably still go see Endgame.
Endgame and Captain Marvel, I think, are both in the theater. I saw.
Oh wow, Captain Marvel is still out there. One thing that was kind of funny, somebody must have programmed like the wrong trailer set in front of our movie, because we got Tom Holland talking to our theater that said, "Oh, I bet you're surprised to see me, but there's a new Spider-Man trailer, but we're not going to show it to you right now because we don't want to spoil it, so we'll show it after your viewing of Endgame." And I was like, wait a minute, what? Am I about to watch Endgame again? That probably wouldn't be too bad, but I'm specifically here so I can see Dark Phoenix and review it.
Really? I actually got the full Far From Home trailer in front of ours.
Well, not me, sir.
Well, just judging by the box office, this is not the only movie to open this weekend. It did have some strict competition with The Secret Life of Pets 2.
Yeah.
And I did, however, when we walked in, there was a family with, I think, 5 kids, 5 small children, and 2 adults walking to see The Secret Life of Pets 2. But on the other note, people in the office, I told them I was going to watch this movie, and they were very excited about it. The average or less than average moviegoer is very excited to watch this.
That is a strange phenomenon, because I had like 2 middle-aged women on like a movie date together, like watching this movie just on a late Sunday morning, usually when most of these type of people would be at brunch somewhere, but they were at Dark Phoenix, and they were kind of annoying. They were talking during the movie here and there, but I heard them going like, "Oh no, that's the Dark Phoenix, this is this person, oh that's Xavier." I'm just like, wow, really? I mean, if the X-Men franchise has been around this long, they could have just been young folks when they saw X1, and now they've just aged through the whole franchise. So yeah, it's very strange, people that are still hooked into this franchise after all this year.
Mm-hmm. And as people may have known, we are so ingrained into the news, the good, the bad, the ugly, if you will. We've suffered through, I think this show has gone through how many X-Men movies? At least Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, Logan. Is that it so far? Is that
possibly Days of Future Past? That might have been on the cusp of when we started the show. I don't quite remember.
Yeah. So it's we've also aged through some of these X-Men movies, but I mean, I've got nothing else to preface it with other than the box office numbers I just looked at, Mike. I mean, I just thought it was a telltale sign when Secret Life of Pets sequel that I didn't even know was out beat Dark Phoenix at the box office.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't shy away from that. Illumination, they might not be making like Pixar tier critical films, but if you go look at box office numbers for any Illumination film, whether it's Minions, Despicable Me, or The First Secret Life of Pets, they make bank. They make lots of money. So, I mean, there's one F-bomb. I guess spoilers, there's one F-bomb in Dark Phoenix, so maybe don't take your kids to that. But I don't want to jump the gun, but Chris, please let me know, spoiler free here real quick, what did you think of Dark Phoenix?
Oh man, how do I find the words for this? Phoenixes are about the I guess representation of life and death, right? They die, they turn to ash, and then they're reborn, and you see something new. Well, Dark Phoenix is kind of a metaphorical phoenix for the X-Men saga. This is the death portion of it. This is dying. It is turning to ash. It will be blown away in the wind and forgotten about in no less than 1, possibly 2 weeks here. And then we can look forward to it, X-Men coming to life and being rejuvenated in the MCU at a later date. So trying to not just be one of those episodes where we just beat a dead horse here, but Dark Phoenix is not a fun, exhilarating movie that we knew it wasn't going to be going into it, especially when they rehash a movie they did already in 2005. 2006.
What was it, by the same writer or same director?
Yeah, same writer. This is Simon Kinberg's first directorial thing in the X-Men universe. And he wanted to retell it in the 90s. And how are these people 32 years later looking the same age, or more?
Yeah.
It's a lot of it. I mean, I think their process. Hey, do you remember watching the last movie? Well, that's all you need to know going into this one. There's no continuity. There's nothing really huge going on here, and I think other than we'll talk about in spoilers some weak villains, if there even is any. I think this movie's not nearly as bad as I thought it would be, because I think Apocalypse is a lot worse, because I think it stretches too far. This is just going to be one of those I guess a breeze is going to come through, blow it away, and I'll never remember Dark Phoenix ever again. So it is not fun, is not good. This, if you have to watch it, if you have to watch all the X-Men movies by Fox, wait till it comes out on whatever streaming service you have, or if you need to rent it, don't go to the theater. Save your money. Popcorn won't even save you on this movie. Mike, I feel like I know what you're gonna say, so go ahead and drop it on us.
Oh, well, I think one of my benchmarks for films, this is like the simple pass you need, the simple test you need to pass when I'm in a movie theater, is you just need to be more entertaining than just the atmosphere inside of the theater that I am. And I found myself many a times just looking around like, oh, that's an interesting floor. Oh, look at this weird little cut in the leather on my chair. This movie was just absolutely, utterly boring and just devoid of entertainment. There's just characters that you don't care about, even though you've been with them for years. They make reference to X-Men First Class by almost literally saying the title of the film, and then the whole time you're just wishing, man, I just wish I was just rewatching First Class. Just there was so much potential back then, and just to see it all wasted on this film, you could say what you will about the Disney acquisition, but even if this whole studio was not bought by Disney, I would not want to watch another X-Men movie with this franchise and with this cast. And when we get into spoilers, we can talk a little bit about the third act and how it was kind of swapped and changed depending on other movies and other franchises out there. But wow, this movie was just so boring. I was so happy when it was over. I was extra happy when you told me that there was no end credits for this film. So as soon as the credits rolled, I just walked right out. Probably some people in the theater were like, oh, why is this guy leaving? There could be an end credit scene. No, you just got to get out of that theater. This was no fun. Mm-hmm. Sometimes some mutant powers can be on display in this film that can be kind of entertaining, but nothing to the level of where you could clip it and put it up on YouTube. At least in the at least in the past of these kind of new X-Men movies, you could at least clip out the Quicksilver scenes and put them up on YouTube and have some fun. But you can't even get a solid 60 seconds out of this film. There was kind of interesting Nightcrawler scene towards the back half of the film that was a little bit enjoyable, but man, this franchise is just completely and utterly run out of gasoline. The car is empty. It's just beat to death by golf clubs and bats, and then Disney came along and then bought it because it was very cheap and affordable. So I'm all out of analogies here. I'd love to jump into spoilers, and we can at least talk about maybe some of the little bits that we enjoyed and just try to figure out who the hell these villains were and what the hell was the point.
Yeah, I agree. So we're going to jump into spoilers here. Time code's in the bottom if you want to back out and come back. But if you've listened this far, you've probably seen it or are not want to see it, just hear what we talk about. But like I said, I agree with you. It it is a competent film. This movie does. If this was made and it wasn't X-Men and we weren't holed up to like superhero bars today, it's a competent movie. But it is so boring, like you said.
If you had to compare it to like a recent film that we've talked about on the show, Hellboy, when it comes to just like the technical merits of the film, of course it's a 20th Century Fox movie. It has the budget, you know. It at times it looks good. The effects are good. Some of the costumes can be kind of interesting. You know, Hellboy just had like technical, you know, issues and like ADR. This doesn't have those problems. This just has a complete utter lack of interesting story with the movie. And Jessica Chastain I was expecting for some sort of like cool mutation or reveal of her alien body at the end, because when they introduced the aliens at the beginning, they were kind of interesting and kind of creepy, since they were kind of the color of the trees that they were emerging out of. You almost had to squint at the screen like, oh, what are those? Oh, that's actually kind of creepy. What's going on here? And then you really never see them again at all through the film, and it's like the whole time I was like, wait, these were supposed to be Skrulls at one point in time, weren't they?
Well, may I? They have the same powers as Skrulls. They have the same look. When you briefly see them as Skrulls, the only time they're mentioned as a Dabari, and that character is called Vuk, is literally in a foreign language, which could have been originally filmed as Skrull language.
Yeah, that's true.
And literally, they could be any shape-shifting alien. They like literally I think that's what it was. They were like, we're Skrulls, we're filming the Skrulls. Then they were like, oh, Disney's gonna buy us, we have to swap this out for a lesser known species that we'll never ever use again. No one will ever use a Dabari ever, and if they do, it'll be that much better.
And I don't know how much of this is rumor or if it's provable anywhere in a court of law, but I was seeing some people online saying that the third act of the train scene, a lot of these interiors of the train scene were actually supposed to be taking place inside of spaceships, like out in space. And Jean Grey was supposed to be going like all Phoenix Force crazy and basically pulling a Captain Marvel and like flying through all these ships and blowing them up. And, you know, and when Captain Marvel was coming on the scene, they decided to change things up. I don't know how true that is, but, you know, after knowing that this third act was entirely changed in reshoots, it does make me wonder, like, yeah, do you just totally throw everything out you had in the third act, or maybe you can reuse some of those interiors, you know?
It would not have saved the movie if it had left the original one. Like, there's nothing by this point. It like you're already kind of checked out. You're like, I'm not invested. Again, Quicksilver got knocked aside and was out the whole movie. Like, how disappointing is that? You're like, he's gonna get one good sequence, right? One good running sequence. Maybe he shows up in the New York or something. No, he's gone. He ran up some wood and got blasted aside. Same way he did in Apocalypse. Like, apparently the Phoenix Force moves faster than he does. And then what was it? Mystique, Jennifer Lawrence had a couple scenes at the beginning and then was promptly impaled on a house.
I mean, I guess it totally changes the story, but I would have been happy if Jennifer Lawrence just died in the spaceship at the very beginning, just so we could be rid of her. Like, she seemed to be about as tired of this franchise as we were.
Well, she had to stay. Again, she had to stay around so she could say that she was part of the First Class, Mike. I mean, if they didn't have that line, they couldn't reference that movie. Yeah, it's one of those things. A lot of this stuff didn't. I mean, I had enough bored time. I was analyzing this movie a little harder than I should have been. I'm like, if they were 30, if Jean Grey wrecked the car 32 years ago, why are they sneaking off in the woods to drink liquor out of a cup? Like, they're not 18. Like, I know they're supposed to look 18, but they're not.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly what the math was, but I believe Xavier and Magneto are supposed to be in their like mid 60s by the time this comes. And what even is the point of setting this movie in the 90s? Really, you know, Kinberg should have just been more ambiguous about the time, and no one even would have cared, because no one even really cared about this movie to begin with. So I guess they kind of wanted to hook it up into the space shuttle endeavor to just kind of like give them a mission at the very beginning of the film, but nothing else about this film is 90s at all. Most of the characters are just in either just normal generic kind of always century appropriate clothes, or they're just in their X-Men uniforms, so nothing really anchors this to the 90s really at all.
Can we talk about how they ended the last movie? One of the best parts about the Apocalypse, they ended in their cool uniforms, and they immediately went to the bland ass blue with the yellow X on them in this one, and I'm like, that's boring as hell. We don't see
Yeah.
anyone else. There are no other mutants really at Xavier's party. Well, they introduced Dazzler. Dazzler's the only extra mutant they introduced at Xavier's Institute. She was the one singing and turning the light into sound into light.
Man, that should have been Taylor Swift.
Well,
but Taylor Swift would only do it if it was a proper MCU movie.
Yeah.
She's not gonna lower herself for this.
They're gonna save that one for the real thing. Magneto had a telepath and a guy who whipped his hair back and forth.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, and then really that was, and then they fought New York, and then the mutant team captured them, and then they were on the train.
I was hoping Magneto was gonna die. I mean, just because I don't care about any of these characters or this franchise anymore. So I was like, hell yeah, just do it. Kill Magneto, crush his head in. I was playing the new Mortal Kombat yesterday, and I was watching all of these like visceral kills and like finishers, and I was like, oh yeah, just like crush his head. You've already used the F-bomb. Just go ahead and really push this PG-13 rating to the edge. But then they copped out, and the helmet just splits open, and then everybody just gets tossed aside. That is like the number one way to neutralize any villain or any hero in the X-Men movies. It's just they get tossed against a wall and then they're done for that action scene. You don't have to worry about them cropping back up. That happened every time. Every time.
I do have to give James McAvoy props for his acting in this one. I mean, I did enjoy, like, especially like the really creepy scene where she made him walk up the stairs with her like telepathy kind of thing. I'm like,
I just kept thinking of that game Quap on the computer. You hit the keys to make that dude sprint across the track.
Yeah,
that was kind of weird.
And then the ending actually went the other way. I didn't think Jean would be good by the end and embrace her powers, but she did. They went all Captain Marvel on us. And she powered up and made everybody turn to ash out of a la Infinity War. So
yeah.
It's hard to like. It's hard to remember things about this movie. How it got
well,
from A to B.
There's two things that I don't know if I can necessarily blame this film on necessarily, but they could have at least maybe attempted something else. The first one was Phoenix powers in general are just kind of boring. Especially when this whole universe of X-Men, everybody has unique, fun powers. Like, even though the dude with dreadlock whips is kind of just weird and goofy, at least it was kind of entertaining to watch him do it. Cyclops' beam was actually kind of cool. It seemed like it was really hitting some people with punches, and they didn't nerf it at all. Like, that beam, it seemed like if he could connect, that beam could have killed, like, Jessica Chastain, and the whole thing would have been over with. So you have all these interesting mutant powers, and what really does the Dark Phoenix power do? It just kind of makes Jean Grey more powerful. Like, maybe sometimes you get some like red light beams or something like that, but really visually on film, it's just utterly nothing. There's no point of it. Like in the X-Men versus the Marvel comic books, you know, when the Phoenix Force comes down and gets into different characters, at least like their costumes change. They get kind of cool new looks, and they really seem to be really large threats. In this film, it's just kind of like, I don't really care. And it seems like the Phoenix Force is really easy to get rid of. Like, I didn't realize anybody could just walk up to it and just pull it out of you. That just kind of seems very easy way to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if really a film could fix that problem. And also problem number 2 is, when did the first X-Men movie come out? What was it, 2000?
I think it was 2000 or 99. I think it was more 2000.
I was going to say maybe 2001, but we've been with this for like basically 20 years. I'm so tired of hearing the same X-Men story of just prejudice against mutants. It's an important allegory to what happens in the real world, 100% agree, but every movie hangs on this plot point of like mutants don't want to be discriminated against. And after you've done so many films, there's no new way to tell the story anymore. So that's just why even if Disney didn't buy the Fox X-Men franchise, you're just running out of ground to take this someplace. So, and we just got more of that in this film where, and it was kind of, they took a clever point where at the very beginning of the movie everybody loved the X-Men, and apparently everybody on the entire planet watches U.S. space shuttles go up in the launch. Even just like random desert holes in the middle of nowhere have TVs and are concerned about the United States space shuttle mission, which was kind of weird, but they're all heroes, and then it just all flips, the coin flips at the very end, and everybody hates them again, and then they never solve that problem at the very end of the movie anyway. So it's just like, it's always the same threat, and it's just boring. So when the MCU gets a hold of him and they build the X-Men back up, Are they going to take a similar tone? Because they've also kind of taken that story a little bit to heart in the MCU already. They've already tried to do this Superhuman Registration Act, the Sokovia Accords. So maybe the mutants will just kind of piggyback on that a little bit. I don't know, but man, I'm tired of that story.
Well, and I think it's also one of those things where they beat it to death, and they don't make it more interesting each time. And the Phoenix at the end of the day was just another big amorphous gray blob in space, and didn't even take a Phoenix form until the end of the thing. And I'm pretty sure, didn't Cyclops say, do you hear what the kids are calling you? Phoenix. And they're like, ha, and then like the aliens are like, it's the Phoenix Force. Like that, like it's not a coincidence. Like they should do this. I just was very underwhelmed. It kind of felt like Galactus out of the was it the second Fantastic Four movie, Rise of Silver Surfer?
Yeah, just kind of like this weird hive mind. It was kind of interesting to hear their origins of the Phoenix Force, the origin of the universe. But man, that's such a broad, huge concept to bring into this small X-Men universe. Like, it should have been a bigger, more interesting deal for the X-Men to learn that there's aliens out there. And like Xavier was just like, what are you? So there's this whole broad concept.
The better question is, what are you?
Oh God, some cliche. The worst cliche line in the whole film was at the very end when she was like, your emotions make you weak. And then they have this long dramatic pause. I was like, here it comes.
Oh no.
I already know it's going to be. Here it is. No, my emotions make me strong. And I was like, and there we go. And I was just rolling my eyes out of my back of my head, and my eyes were rolling down the steps back to my car to wait for me to get out of this movie. So yeah, this is... I don't even know if I have anything left to say. It's just such a throwaway film, because it's just like no one cares about the decade they live in. No one on this film set cares about them looking 65 years old. Mm-hmm. None of this makes any sense. She already had the Phoenix Force at the end of Apocalypse, but nobody cared about that movie anyway, so that wasn't addressed at all. They make a good point that Xavier really doesn't give a shit about any of these kids at the beginning of the film, so I didn't give a shit about anybody else either. But wow, what a bummer, what a sad way to end it on. That's kind of my biggest disappointment. At least they could have found a way to maybe just do a send-off to all of these characters. Technically, we don't really have any holdovers from the very first X films, because Logan, man, he got that perfect send-off. And I guess these films really were always Hugh Jackman movies, but man, it would have been, kind of nice to wave goodbye to the X-Men Fox movies in some sort of sweet, passionate way, and that didn't happen.
Well, not even. There's a perfect. I really enjoy. I think I can't say I enjoy. I really appreciate the ending where it's Xavier Magneto playing chess, because we've seen that throughout all the movies, right? So that's not bad. But if they could have had like Hugh Jackman like maybe be their waiter or be like at a table beside them at the end and just like had it all wrapped up right there, done. That'd have been fine. I still wish it would have been my other way, where the Phoenix destroyed everything and rebuilt life. Because if it is the thing to rebuild life, why did they not use that? Why did she not use that power at all? Yeah. To bring back like even like Mystique? Wouldn't that would have been a twist that we didn't see coming? Yeah. Like they showed us die. They showed her die because they're going to bring her back later with the Phoenix Force.
I mean, talk about one of the few times in Hollywood history where you just have free license to pretty much do whatever you want. None of these characters are coming back. This franchise is not being renewed. No one's going to remember it. No one cares about it anymore. Just go for a crazy balls to the wall, just bizarre ending that nobody thought would ever happen. And at least that might get some more butts and seats. But we just got very generic. I thought it was going to be The Dark Knight Rises. I thought we were going to see Jean Grey like sipping tea at a couple tables over or something like that. And we almost got that. You got her up in the sky in the shape of a phoenix.
Bird. Yeah,
it's like is nobody else worried about that firebird in the sky? I mean,
how long ago was this later? She just floating around in the space right above the planet. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the same ending to X2, where she falls into the water and then you see the bird
in the water,
like flowing under the water. It's like, man, it's such a lack of originality.
Yeah, and without Hugh Jackman and without Stan Lee in this movie was worse for it. They'd at least had us some YouTube scenes we could have looked at, but we don't even get those anymore, Mike, like you said.
Mm-mm.
So
womp womp.
Yeah. Again, I do appreciate their use of Nightcrawler. He did go a little psycho and started killing people there at the end, so that was fun.
When he kind of lost it at the end, that was probably my favorite only part. Magneto did some cool stuff in the train with some metal that was kind of cool. But yeah, that's about it. The only highlights was Cyclops saying the F word just because it was funny and out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while you might get a cool mutant power, but even like these are mutant powers. They're like basically fantastical things that humans can do. And Captain America, who just has a shield, does cooler things with throwing it like a boomerang than any mutant did in this movie with like basically a superpower.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I can say anymore about this movie.
I will add one more thing. Yeah, have you seen the South Park where Eric Cartman pretends he's a telepath and he's predicting where people are dying?
Yeah.
And then he has the battle with the other telepaths in his house. That was Xavier versus Magneto's telepath on the street there. No effects, nothing. They're just holding their heads up to their hands, pulling Nightcrawler back and forth. I was like,
that's funny.
That's
I
boring.
Like that. I like that.
Anyway, well, that is Dark Phoenix for everybody there. Don't stay after. There's no end credits. Don't go see it if you can help it. So we'll do that. Mike, we got some news to record. If you want to, I think it's going to be a great episode. That's going to be a great follow-up to this. So if people want to know what you're doing, where can they find you at?
Well, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram and Twitter, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, where can people find you?
Head over to Twitter, follow me at Valdan, Valdan, or Instagram, Valdan87. You can also head over to Comic UI. If people want to listen to our news episode, like I said, which I think is way better than this movie review, where can people go find that one at?
All you got to do is visit superheroslate.com. That is your number one resource for all things Superhero Slate. We got a nice upcoming release calendar so you can see all the films that we're going to be talking about on this show. And a nice, just simple text list on our website, so you can check that out at superheroslate.com. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We got merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love everybody out there that listens to us. You're our BFFs. We love reviews from you. I hear they're breaking off the podcast app from iTunes on desktop, so maybe now it might be easier to find us on your desktop and go write us a review on your fully functioning keyboard. So we love your reviews. We love hearing from you, and we love our super fans. So if you want to be a super fan out there of Superhero Slate, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here every week. And make sure you're subscribed because we're about to talk about the news.
That's right. We will catch you guys over there.
All right. Adios.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah, I'd much rather talk about the news today than this movie.